Today on our show, we're talking about the sport of bodybuilding and weight training. And I'm privileged to have as my guest three world champion bodybuilders, Boyer Coe, Ray Mentzer, and Mike Mentzer. Thank you for being with us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boyer, you've seen over the last 20 years bodybuilding as a sport go through a huge evolution. Can you tell us a little bit about this evolution?
Well, I think that the sport has changed somewhat, and in some ways not necessarily for the better, but it has become a little more acceptable in the fact that I think basically all of America is caught up in a youth syndrome, and that being certainly the way to achieve that is through fitness. So people have appreciated or come to acknowledge the sport a little better through their own interest in fitness. It's become a little more acceptable, but I think it still has a very long way to go.
Mike?
I think, too, Eric, that the public has become more enlightened as to the benefits of weight training and bodybuilding per se. For years, of course, and even now, there are many myths that surround the sport. Probably more allegations have been leveled against bodybuilding as a sport more than any other. And, of course, most of those aren't true.
Ray, what about some of the other myths involved with bodybuilding as a sport or the people who participate in it?
Well, for one, we were never considered athletes in general. We were supposed to be like the prima donna types who sunbathe all day and no work, just laying on the beach, you can't scratch your heads. Like there's no articulation, there's no, excuse me, brains or nothing behind it. But it's a very mental sport. It takes a lot of concentration, a lot of drive, and there it's a catalyst for more higher endeavors.
When people think, Boyer, of bodybuilding, they think of the whole time being spent on weights. Is this entirely all that's involved in the sport?
Well, if you want to be successful at it, it doesn't, go in the fact that the more time you spend in the gym, the better you'll be. Most people assume that if a little training, makes a tremendous change in the body, then a lot of training or more training will improve you that much more, and that's not necessarily so at all. There is a lot involved in the preparation for a physique contest, but the training to provide the stimulus for muscle growth, which is a very important part of it, but it's still a very small part of it. There's a lot of other aspects involved as well.
Mike, although you are now retired, describe, say, your typical training program prior to, say, a competition. What do you put yourself through?
Well, I would start approximately 12 weeks before the contest, depending upon my condition. And each one of the weeks leading up to the contest, the training would become actually briefer and more intense. And probably the last week before the show, believe it or not, I wouldn't train at all. I would rest up, try to get myself together mentally, lay in the sun, go over my posing routine and so forth.
How vigorous and how much discipline, Ray, is involved in the posing aspects of bodybuilding?
Well, just take the advantage of how many people, for example, look at their backs every day. To control all the muscles in your back, to be able to hit a double bicep back pose, you have like 23 muscles attached to each side of the scapula. To hit them all at once takes a lot of concentration, a lot of time. And how many people are really aware of their bodies in general? They look in the mirror and they see their big bellies, and all they're aware of is their forks going in their mouths. So it takes a lot of mind-body type of concentration.
Keeping in mind myself here, what are my chances for participating in a bodybuilding competition? Can anybody get involved with it?
Well, certainly anybody can get involved in it, maybe not from the standpoint of competing, say, in a physique contest. Everyone should be interested in looking the best that they possibly can look and achieving their full potential. But basically, in bodybuilding, as in many other sports, champions are born, not made. Genetics plays a very important part in it. The best situation that you could have is if you could pick your own parents. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
But for a young kid, Mike, say, who sees a bodybuilding magazine, how does someone go about getting involved with the sport?
Well, primarily through the magazine, first of all. That was my initial introduction to the sport. From there, you, of course, have to develop the physique that warrants your going into a contest. Then you seek out the proper officials on the local level and sign up and enter the contest.
Is it a hard procedure to get involved with? I mean, do you have to go through a lot of channels?
No. Most local and regional areas have AAU chairmen that are very accessible and easy to contact. It's no problem.
What about seminars? Do you all give seminars now around the country on bodybuilding, talking with young people on how they can get involved with the sport and the training type of things, Ray?
Yes, we all have been doing seminars for the last 5 or 7 years, and it has its peaks and valleys, but just to go out in the public and try to give a general understanding about physical fitness and training to give a healthier attitude. And it seems like top names do draw that type of attention.
Boyer, if you could describe a moment in your career that really stood out as far as being a champion, where would it be?
Well, there's no doubt, probably the most excitement for me, and even though I've competed like for the last 19 years straight, the most pleasure that I got out of winning a competition was the very first Mr. Universe contest that I won in London, which goes back to 1969. It was the first international event that I was fortunate enough to win.
Where do you see, Mike, quickly bodybuilding going in the next 10 years as a sport?
Not so much further as a sport per se, but I see it being even more accepted generally by the public, but in a more softcore fashion, with the interest not so much on building large, bulky muscles, but some muscular mass with lots of tone and definition.
Mike, you've just recently completed a book on weight training.
Right.
Why is weight training such an important part of a total fitness program?
Well, actually, beyond that, weight training, Nautilus training or barbell training per se, is the only single activity that allows you to enhance the four components of physical fitness within that one activity, not having to spread it out over a number of activities. The four components, of course, being muscular strength, cardiovascular fitness, flexibility, and one that's not mentioned very often, stress reduction.
Is weight training, Boyer, limited to any one sex or age?
No, and I just wanted to add to what Mike had said, is the fact that particularly it's true in athletics of any kind. A stronger athlete, regardless of the sport, is going to be a better athlete. And certainly weight training, and the involvement in that area is going to produce a more efficient athlete. But to answer your question there, no, weight training for women for many years was frowned upon by a lot of people, and women in general felt that, they would become more masculine if they trained. And actually, weight training lends itself for a woman to develop a much more voluptuous figure, which I think all women are interested in. Certainly all men are interested in that.
Ray, you do a lot of training on Nautilus equipment. What is the beauty of the Nautilus machine to enhance your training?
Well, number one, I don't do a lot of training, about an hour and a half a week at the most.
Oh, really?
To enhance it is the fact that they're designed to fit the biomechanical positions of the body. And therefore, to go over a full range of movement to get to maximum contraction, I can not worry about crushing myself with weights or missing the groove or somebody spotting me, per se. I can put all my concentrated effort right into the machinery. Another comment on these two is that weight training in general will help adapt to different stress of everyday life also. Better condition, you'll be able to handle your work better, your recreation activities, what have you.
Mike, many people are afraid to get into weight training programs because they're afraid they're going to gain weight. Is this true?
Well, they may gain weight, but if they're training properly and eating properly, it will be muscular weight, which in most cases will enhance the individual's appearance. So it's something they shouldn't worry about.
So actually, the weight is being proportioned in muscle rather than fat?
And while they're gaining the muscular weight, they're probably losing the fat again if they're eating properly.
Can someone, Boyer, actually lose fat through weight training?
Oh, certainly, because it is a proven fact, although this has been argued back and forth, that weight training, if done correctly, provides cardiovascular benefits which also aid in burning calories, which would reduce body fat, at the same time build muscle, lean muscle tissue.
Cardiovascular benefits. Mike, people are now worried more and more about the shape of their heart. Is bodybuilding or weight training, let's say, can that supply that?
Absolutely, if done in a proper fashion. If you don't rest too long between sets and you allow your heart to sustain a certain elevated pulse rate, which is adjusted according to age, I think it's on the order of 20 minutes 3 times a week, you will enhance your cardiorespiratory health.
Go more into just strength aspects, Boyer, and how we're needing strength more and more as athletes.
Well, as I mentioned, a stronger athlete, which naturally is produced by weight training or training of high intensity, is going to produce a better athlete. And as long as an athlete participates or continues to practice his skill for his particular sport, it's going to enhance that as well. I know this was one of the gray areas many years ago. They felt, for example, if a boxer trained with weights, he would lose his flexibility or his punching power. Nothing could be further from the truth. Even you have people of highly skilled sports such as basketball or golf or tennis, weight train and have become more efficient and better at their sport because of this.
Eric?
Yeah.
I might add, most bodybuilders are actually more flexible and more agile than most non-athletes or non-bodybuilders. When John Grimmick won, I think it was the 1947 Mr. Universe contest, he did a backflip off of the posing platform and landed in a split. You can't be muscle-bound to do that.
Ray, what would you recommend the steps to be taken in first starting into a weight training program?
Well, number one, you have to define what your goals are and what you want it for. Next is to either try to get a basic background on the subject, go to your nearest club and try to find the top person there in your Nautilus center, have them put you through the workout, and just go through it and just enjoy it. Don't be obsessed with it. Just enjoy your training and go from there and see where it takes you.
Boyer?
Yeah, a facility that would provide an excellent environment to train in, and also investigate several different clubs and find out which one offers the best qualified instruction.
What is the importance, Mike, of having an instructor with you when you're working out?
Well, for a beginner, of course, to prevent yourself from making mistakes. But in the long run, even for some advanced bodybuilders, having an instructor or someone there, a training partner, to just goad you along, make sure that you're doing your repetitions in the proper form. Even a top professional can lapse occasionally and injure himself just through improper form. So for guidance and inspiration.
Our guests today have been Boyer Coe, Mike and Ray Mentzer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us.